Hello, Ben. Just a point of agreement to start with. Triple lock on pensions, totally financially indefensible. For rich pensioners, it's absolutely mad. And who would have thought that the Labour Party could indulge in such terrible pork barrel politics?
It's an absurd policy.
You'd never have thought it, would you?
It's an absurd policy.
No. Anyway, but for the two-child benefit cap, unpopular, but only with the usual suspects. I was reading The Guardian today. Who's complaining about it? TUC, Joseph Rowntree Foundation, Archbishop of Canterbury, the usual suspects, of course.
Nigel Farage? Suella Braverman?
Well, that is surprising. But, they're probably, all those Labour lovies and lefty organisations, they're probably all slack-jawed at the moment at the fact that Rachel Reeves isn't already dropping £50 notes from
You can call Suella Braverman many things. A Labour lovey would not be one of them.
No, not her. But the thing is, the two-child cap came in 7 years ago, and it wasn't applied it wasn't applied at all to families who already had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 children. Yep. It only applied to children, third, fourth, fifth, sixth children born after that time. So any parent or parents that had children after that time knew there was no extra benefit. So if they couldn't afford the children, or the children were growing up in poverty, all they've done is impoverish themselves and their one or two
That's not the children's fault, is it? You don't punish the children because you say, oh, well, you deserve to be poor, you 5-year-old boy, because your parents shouldn't have had you.
There's got to be some parent responsibility, though, and I don't want to shower my hard-earned tax money on people who can't afford to have children. But child poverty...
Nick, come on. You're happy for those children to stay living in poverty so you can make a point of principle about their parents.
I'd be much happier if their parents exercised some responsibility and didn't have children if they can't afford
What
to
if
bring
their
them up.
circumstances change? What if they could afford it and now they can't?
It's called family resource. It's also called insurance. And by the way, there's also benefits. When you say circumstance change, you become disabled benefit.
Maybe.
You become
Maybe
unemployed,
you become ill.
unemployment benefit. Come on. The thing is, it's a perfectly reasonable policy. And by the way, your previous two before caller was absolutely right about the theatre of this. Come on. A few left-wing MPs get the whip suspended. I think Labour have got they've still got another 93 MPs they can suspend before they lose their majority in a whipped vote.
But Nick,
I think that
come
can go
on.
for a while.
This cap is opposed by, it's not just Labour lovies, it is opposed by people right across the political spectrum because it keeps those children living in poverty. And you can disagree with whether their parents should have had them or whatever. Can we not at least agree that in a country like ours, with the wealth of ours, the level of children currently in poverty should not be where it is?
Point is, Ben, we're not wealthy. I hate this thing being trotted out. And by the way,
we're wealthy. We've got more billionaires in this country than ever before.
Hold on a second. I constantly hear politicians, especially in the left, come on and say, we're the fifth or sixth wealthiest country in the world. We are absolutely not. We're the fifth or sixth largest economy, but I looked up recently, we're the 35th richest per head. We are not the richest country in the world, and we have massive debt. We're all paying extortionate amounts of tax. And by the way, I think the people I feel the most sorry for in society is minimum wage and low-wage workers still having to pay stonking amounts of tax and national insurance.
I feel sorry for them too, but I also feel sorry for the millions of kids that are living in poverty.
It's their parents' responsibility. You've got to draw the line somewhere. You can't just keep shelling out money to people to have unlimited number of children.
So you just leave them in poverty to make a point, to make a statement to their parents?
No, but...
So what do you do instead?
Nothing.
Nothing? You just leave them there?
Yeah.
Let them go hungry is quite literally your proposal.
They're only going hungry by the mismanagement of their parents.
That's not true.
And that's not even poverty and income.
We've got record levels of children in deprivation in this country. Do you know what that means, Nick? It means they don't have the very basic necessities: heat, clothing, food, shelter.
By the mismanagement of their parents.
So it's okay then? It doesn't bother you because it's their parents' fault, so why should we be concerned?
Of course it bothers me, but who's going to take responsibility for it? It's totally unreasonable to expect hard-pushed taxpayers, not me, by the way, but hard-pushed taxpayers, people in low incomes who are being squeezed for every penny of tax.
But nobody's saying tax them more. Who's saying they should be taxed more? You could slightly tweak taxes like inheritance tax, capital gains tax, council tax at the highest bands, and you would raise the £3.4 billion quite quickly to lift 500,000 kids out of poverty. Why on earth would you not do it?
I would like to see some of those taxes tightened and increased on the wealthy, but to pay to hard-pressed workers. That's
so
who should be
you'd
getting
rather
the benefits.
cut taxes for workers than lift 500,000 children out of poverty?
100%, which, by the way, would help all the working parents who have
Nick,
2,
have you
3, 4,
got
5
kids?
children.
Because the lack of compassion, my friend, is just...
It's not a lack of compassion.
It is. It's a total lack of compassion. It's a total lack of compassion.
It's cutting the middleman out. Do you realise that a lot of these low-wage families, a lot of these families who have 3, 4, 5 children,
I don't care.
who can't afford to keep them, they're working, and the reason they need the child benefit is because they're being taxed so much. And the government's answer, or used to be, the Labour government's answer, and all these left-wing think tanks, is not to actually reduce their taxes, but to put up the taxes on everyone else to give them more money.
What about the ones that aren't working?
Because they're paying so much.
What about the ones that aren't working? What about the fifth? I think it's about 48% that aren't working.
48% of what? The children?
No, of the parents in those households, the poorest households.
Well, it's another big issue. They should be encouraged, or actually forced is pretty difficult, but actually far more incentive to work. And
what if they're
ill? If the minimum wage was raised and we didn't support the minimum wage by mass immigration, it'd be so much better. I think the minimum wage should be £15 or £20 an hour. Then these people would actually be able to afford to go out to work.
Who's going to pay for that?
It would be paid for because the government wouldn't have to keep handing out tax benefits and child benefits.
How are the businesses that are just about managing going to deal with a £3 or £4 an hour pay rise for all their staff?
They find a way to do it. There's no evidence.
They'd go under.
There's no evidence that higher minimum wage cuts employment. There's studies all over the Western world. And actually, I find that one of the really shocking things, that Labour, from all their manifesto twaddle, they couldn't find the wherewithal to increase the minimum wage.
Nick, I appreciate the call. I mean, I just disagree with you so fundamentally that cutting taxes for working people is more of a priority than lifting millions of children potentially out of poverty. We just disagree. We're going to have to disagree on that one on a very, very fundamental level, because to me, there's nothing more important than children not growing up without food, shelter, water or clothing. I just think that's pretty basic stuff.